Let's see who's hopping on. I want to talk about marketing, of course. Marketing yourself, it seems to be getting harder and harder nowadays. So this is what you want to do. And that's what I really want to get into. I noticed, even today, I just saw an article about how Google just updated their Gmail tabs. So if you're marketing yourself online, you're sending emails, then it's going to be harder to reach people with those emails if you're doing inbound marketing. And so I just saw that update with Google. And so it's like marketing seems to be getting harder and harder. And so what do you do when it's getting harder and harder, or at least seems to be? So let's see who's hopping on. Let's wait a few seconds. All right. 1, 2, waited a few seconds. All right. So this is actually a really interesting thing. People always think marketing is getting harder. Like, is it getting harder, or does it just feel like it's getting harder? I remember when I was just building my business as an entertainer and I started doing cold calling, and it felt like I was doing a lot. Like, it felt like I was talking to a lot of people when I was doing the cold calling, because I'm sitting there dialing. A lot of people didn't answer. Then the people who did, I'm sitting there talking to them, sending out my stuff to them to actually get on the stage. And then I looked at the actual numbers in terms of how many people I really talked to on the phone. And it felt like I talked to like 50, 100 people a day. Then when I actually looked at the real numbers, it was like 7, 8 people in terms of how many people I actually converse with on the phone. And so a lot of times things might be harder, or they might just feel harder. And this is where you have to truly look at history, look at human nature, and then you can start to understand how things are really going and how things are really happening. This is why I tend to I've been studying history more and more, and just how people responded back in the days, because there's that whole saying of history repeats itself. This is why you got to just learn from other people who came before you, because the whole history repeats itself is very, very true. So I remember, the younger generation, so the older generations always think the younger generations are dumber than them. And the younger generations always think the older generations are dumber. So it happens with every single generation. The baby boomers right now, their parents, they thought you hippies, and at the time with the hippies and all, they're like, you hippies, you're throwing away your lives. You guys are ruining everything, and you're doped up and you're trying all these drugs, you hippies. And so that's what happened with the older generation talking about the baby boomers. And so now the baby boomers do the same thing to millennials, and the millennials or the baby boomers are like, oh, the millennials are horrible. They're dummies. They're entitled. And then the millennials are talking the same thing about the younger generation, Generation Z or whatever they call Generation Z, Y. I don't know which one it is with one letter. And so, every single generation seems to think the other generation above them is old, outdated. The generation below them is dumb. And that's what happens with every generation. And so you have to start looking and think, all right, are things changing, or does it just look like they're changing, or does it feel like they're changing? And so this is why I'm a huge believer in the whole history repeats itself. In fact, back in the slavery days, way back in the slavery days, there was this guy, Willie Lynch, and the whole lynching thing came from Willie Lynch. He was like this whole slave trainer, pretty much. And so whenever they wanted to train someone, they sent it to him, and he wrote this letter about how to literally train slaves. It's an insane letter, and it was insanely detailed. And I'm going to read this part of the letter that he actually wrote. So he wrote this. He said, don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. And so think about all that stuff in terms of this is way back in the day. And he's talking about you're basically pitting these two people or these two groups against each other. Younger generation versus older generation. And that's what's happening nowadays. Happened way back in the day. Same thing is happening. Human nature does not change. It is simply being revealed at this point. And so when you truly understand that, you start to truly understand just marketing in general, and how everything that happened before, it's still happening. It's just happening a little bit differently. And that's why people they don't see it. And so this is why you got to ask yourself, is marketing really changing? Is it really getting harder, or does it just feel harder? And this is why I tell people hey, actually read, study more. And so all you're literally doing is you're kind of studying what happened before, and you're studying what's happening like around the globe and everything. So, for example, spam calls, and I mentioned this a while ago in terms of spam. Nowadays, I think they say in 2020, it's going to get to a point in the US where 50% of all phone calls are going to be robocalls. Like all phone calls, like 50% of them is going to be robocalls. And so all you have to do in order to predict what's about to happen is just look at a place like Europe. Okay, there's pretty much no robocalls in Europe. So you say, okay, what's going to happen in the U.S.? Well, what's going to happen is all these laws are going to be put in place. FCC and all these people are going to put all these laws in place, just destroy all the phone calls. And you got to think, all right, how am I going to change my business? Like, how are people in Europe doing it? And then let me kind of see what they're doing. I'm going to adjust in my business. So you have to essentially look at history, even if history was just 5 years ago. Like, all right, Europe, I don't know when they passed the laws, but it's like, if you just look behind you and you'll see what's going to happen in front of you. Because like I said, human nature does not change. It is simply being revealed. That's all that is happening, but it feels like things are changing. That's why like the older generation, I don't know what the older generation was called in terms of there's baby boomers and then the generation above them. I don't know what they were called. We'll just call them like really old people. So the really old people, they were thinking like, oh, the younger generation, the baby boomers, they're like the younger generation is dumb, the hippies and all that and Woodstock and all that stuff. They're thinking they're dumb. Same thing, baby boomers. You millennials are dumb. You're entitled and all that sort of stuff. And so if you just look at what was happening before, whether you go way back in the day or whether you go 5 years ago, it's going to repeat itself. And that's why it honestly amazes me. I think it's kind of funny when people predict a recession's about to happen. And I'm like, well, of course it's going to happen. It happens like all the time. It happens ever since freaking mankind was created. Recessions keep happening. It's inevitable. It's going to happen again. All you have to do is say what happened in 2008 or when was the Great Depression? I don't remember the exact year, but like what happened during these years. And then you simply say, let's say you want to make money during a depression, during a recession. You say, okay, here's what happened in 2008. Who are the people who made money? What did they do? That's all you're doing. You're like going in the back. And so you're going in the past. So if you feel like marketing is getting harder and harder, it's almost like marketing is just kind of changing a little bit. The environment is changing and it creates the impression that everything is different. In reality, it's the same. It just looks different. It appears different. That's all that's really happening. And so it's like people have been getting a lot of spam email newsletters. I mean, that's what happens to me, to where, I don't know, I want to pimp slap people for putting me on their email newsletters. I'm like, dude, I didn't sign up to your email newsletter. Why you put me on there? And so when things like that happen, you have to look in the past and you simply say, okay, what happened here? Now let me adjust because I'm going to be prepared for it when they start passing new laws and doing all this stuff. And so a simple example is even when, like if you look at, Instagram ads or Facebook ads and you look at the comments people are posting on the comments, you'll notice that anyone who pretty much has an Instagram ad or a Facebook ad, people comment on it. They're like, scam artists. Oh, this is not true. Like everyone seems to do that. It's pretty freaking crazy. And all you have to do is you study that sort of stuff and it's not going to be harder for you because you just look at what other people have done, how they overcame it, and you adjust to your specific situation. Marketing is it's changing. So there's a difference between getting really, really hard versus changing. Marketing and everything, the world around you is just changing a little bit. It's adjusting, but there are always patterns that happened in the past. You simply study what other people have done and then you just you adjust it based on nowadays. That's all you're literally doing. And so it's like nowadays it's getting harder and harder to gain trust because once again, everyone's producing content. And so you don't know who's a scam artist. You just don't know at this point. It's like, it looks like he's legit, but you don't really know. So everyone's it's getting harder and harder to build trust, to earn trust, to keep trust. So what do you do? Well, once again, look back in the past. Well, what did they do? And so now it's getting to a point where the winner takes all, like literally the winner takes all. This is why it's so hard to dethrone Facebook. So Facebook, despite what you think about them, it is so hard to dethrone them because they took it all. I mean, in the beginning, the internet was coming up. The internet was new. You have companies like Friendster, Myspace, and whatever other ones that were out there in terms of like similar social networking sites. but they weren't really all that skilled at it. And I'm talking about that in just a second. They were really good, but they weren't skilled at it. Facebook came in, they were way more skilled at it. And then all of a sudden they just took over. They just freaking owned the whole thing. Zuckerberg did his thing. Dude's like brilliant. And then bam, winner takes all. Same thing happened with Google. Google, I mean, there was a search engine. I don't remember the search engine before Google, but there was a search engine before Google. They weren't as skilled as Google. Google came in more skilled, more ambitious, and then they just took it all. Now they just own search. Even Microsoft tried to come in with Bing. And Bing, I mean, it's there, but still, it's no Google. And so you have to like understand that gaining trust, it is getting harder because more and more people are revealing human nature. That's what's happening. Human nature has been the same. It will stay the same, but human nature is being revealed. So people are trusting less and less. And now you have to think, well, how do I overcome the trust, or how do I gain more trust and all that? And so, ultimately, what did I write here? What the heck? Oh, all right. So yeah, it's gotten to a point where in order to gain trust, in order to make more sales and anything, in order to market yourself in a better way, you almost have to do more to get the same result. That's what's happening nowadays. So now, like in the past, people used to just trust pretty easily. I mean, it's like, all right, I just trust you. Yeah, I just met you. Yeah, come on into the house. Come on in. That's what used to happen. Nowadays, it's very different. You have to do more to gain trust, or you have to do more to get a sale. Instead of just sending 50 emails to get a sale, you got to send 5,000 emails to get a sale. It's just getting harder and harder in that sense, where you have to do more to get to the same level. That's what's really happening nowadays. More calls, more emails. If you're sending out, or like more outreach emails, if you're doing inbound, then you got to spend more money on the advertising to get people to sign up to your newsletters. It's just more and more that you have to do to get to the same level. Now, knowing this, what do you do? Like, you know, you got to do more. Everyone's doing all this stuff. The world is just becoming saturated at this point with everyone's doing their marketing. So you got to do more to just accomplish the same level. So what do? You have to get more skilled. Like, I'm telling you right now, get more skilled at what you're doing. That's how you win. In the beginning, when things start out, you don't have to be skilled in any way, because when things start out, it's just like a startup or whatever. MySpace just started. Nobody knew what they were doing. So if you just did a couple things, you win. It's like when Twitter started, nobody knew how to really market on Twitter, none of that. But the first people on Twitter, they won. And now it's getting to a point where everybody's using it. Twitter, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. It's becoming saturated. People are paying less attention because they get desensitized. Now, how do you get that attention? The way you get it is by being more skilled. That's why Facebook destroyed MySpace and Friendster and all the other ones. And so, honestly, like back in the day, I never thought Facebook was going to destroy MySpace, to be honest. I'm telling you, back in the day, I said, man, MySpace is way cooler than Facebook. They will never beat MySpace. And yeah, I was completely wrong about that one, but they were way more skilled. And so you can no longer coast. Like, you can't coast anymore. If you sit there, like back in the day, say 5 years ago, like not like way back in the day, but back in the day, 5 years ago with Facebook, even probably just 3 years ago, 3 years ago with Facebook, you could just place an ad. You can be decent at it. You can just say, all right, let me just write something. Let me put a picture here. Let me place the ad. Let me spend $100, and poof, you generated a lot of sales. That's what used to happen with Facebook. Then everyone started using Facebook. And now that everyone's using Facebook, the only people who win are the ones who are more skilled at it. So it's not about, let me just write something and just see what happens. You have to actually be a really great copywriter. You got to say, I know that these words persuade people. I know that this image captures attention. And so when you get more skilled, you win. And this is why everyone keeps saying, like, learn, and all that sort of stuff. So you can no longer coast. You have to learn. You have to learn from other people, whatever it is. You just got to learn. You have to skill up. When everyone is good, when everyone is good, the only people who stand out are the greats. So you have to understand that in the beginning, when everyone starts, everyone's a beginner. Nobody's good at anything. Everyone starts out at the same level. Then all of a sudden, everyone starts getting good. Everyone's like, all right, we're good. Just The level increases. Now, in order to be up here, you got to be great. That's why you have to skill up. Let other people be good. You got to become great at what you do. And so this is why I'm pretty sure everything nowadays in terms of the marketing, if you're not really great at presentation skills, you're going to be left behind. Like hands down, you're going to be left behind. That's one of the reasons why I started doing more of the presentation skills for the other website, speakinglifestyle.com, because I know that that's what it's going to come down to. Now that everybody's doing content, podcasts, YouTube, Instagram live, and just live in general, now that everyone's doing it, the only people who stand out with it are the greats. And so you have to skill up. You have to learn more, do more. Like I said, when you do more, you naturally learn more the more you do, because you're just becoming more experienced. So you do more so you can learn more, and then naturally you're going to be up here while everybody else is here coasting, and you're going to be the one winning. So it's really, really important that you do that. In the beginning, because marketing, it seems to be getting harder and harder. In the beginning, you essentially have to ignore the numbers in the beginning. Otherwise, you're going to get depressed. Trust me on this one. Ignore your numbers in the beginning, because when you're trying to become great at anything, the numbers are very deceiving, because remember, in the beginning, you suck at it. Like, no matter what it is you start, you suck at it. If you start a sport, you suck at it. You're not going to play basketball, and the first thing you do is become Michael Jordan. You're not going to start with boxing. First thing you do is become Floyd Mayweather. You're not going to start chess, and first thing you do is going to be Bobby Fischer. You're not going to start business. The first thing you do is going to become Jeff Bezos. That's not how it works. So in the beginning, you're going to suck at it. So you ignore the numbers, because everything you do, most of what you do, it's not going to work. So if you're sitting there doing live and all that sort of stuff, and you're spending money on ads and it's not really working, so you ignore those numbers so you can keep going. You say, okay, I'm doing the live. Oh my goodness, nobody showed up. And then you're going to end up getting demotivated. Like, damn it, nobody showed up. And so you have to ignore those numbers. That's why, like, if you're doing outreach, the only numbers you got to pay attention to is your level of activity. That's the only number you got to pay attention to in the beginning, is your level of activity to skill up. And then once you skill up, now you can start paying attention to real numbers. Now you can start paying attention to metrics. You're like, okay, because I skilled up, now we're getting some traction. Now let's actually start doing some real stuff. In the beginning, it's all about practice. It's like let's say you start practicing boxing. In the beginning, you don't punch as fast as you can. In the beginning, you just punch to do it right. That's all you're doing in the beginning. You're just learning to do it right. You're like, all right, so I don't have my elbow out when I punch. It's like you do it straight. And so you just got to do it right. Then you speed up. That's how you have to think about with your marketing, to where if you're creating content, you ignore the likes, you ignore the followers. In fact, you ignore them, not even in the beginning. You just ignore them in general, because all that really matters with your business is revenue. And then with revenue, you can start doing other things. So you completely ignore numbers like that. Ignore vanity metrics like that. Metrics that seem like they mean something, but they actually mean absolutely nothing. And so you have to do that. Otherwise, you're going to get depressed. So like in the beginning, like when I was sending out emails in the beginning, I was doing outreach. I didn't really know about copywriting in the beginning. I wish someone would have told me. I didn't know what the heck copywriting was in the beginning. I was just sending out emails, and I was trying to skill up. And then it wasn't until I actually learned about copywriting when I got really good at it. But I was ignoring the actual, I was just kind of ignoring everything other than what I was doing. I was just trying to think, how do I get better? How do I get better? And that's ultimately what you're trying to do with everything, in terms of just, you got to skill up. A lot of people say like, oh, you got to work hard and all that, or you got to work smart. And it's basically, you got to do both. At this point, if you're not working hard and smart, you're gonna be left behind. Like, you hands down will get left behind, because everything is going so fast nowadays. And so you work hard and you work smart. You got to move fast. So Mark Zuckerberg, his thing was move fast and break things. Now you got to move fast and don't break things. That's what has to happen. In the beginning, it was move fast and break things, because it was winner takes all. So you didn't have to be all that skilled in the beginning. You just had to do more than everybody else. That was it. If you did more than everybody else, you were going to get there faster. Now you have to be smart and work hard. You got to move fast and don't break things while you're moving. So it's like, if you look at the athletes nowadays and you compare them to the athletes back in the day, in almost any sport, the athletes nowadays will completely destroy the athletes back in the day. Like, if you look at boxing, Like the heavyweight boxers back in the day, they were like scrubs compared to the boxers now. Mike Tyson would get in the ring with them, one hitter quitter, every single one of those heavyweights. And so probably even some of the lightweights nowadays would destroy the heavyweights back in the days. You see, everyone's getting more skilled, especially with technology. They get a look at the numbers with technology and see like, all right, I hit harder by twisting my hip just 2 more inches or something. And they're getting more skilled. There's this guy, Vasily Lomachenko, and he's like the up and coming boxer right now. Everyone's like, this dude is one of the greatest boxers of all time. And the reason why he's so good is because he uses technology to help him get skilled. Like he's more skilled at what he does than all these other boxers. In the beginning, the boxers, they could just say like, all right, let me just punch and all right, cool. And that's, and that was it. Now Vasily, he's like, all right, so what does the technology say? So if I do like this, okay, it's going to be a lot harder. But if I go this, all right, it's going to be even harder. I'll knock him out. So now it's like little details that's making him more skilled, which is why he's winning. And this guy, by the way, he beats people so bad that they end up quitting. Like that's how bad this dude beats people. They don't even go the full 12 rounds. Like people quit on the 6th round. They're like, nope, throwing in the towel. We can't even hit this guy or nothing. And it's because he's more skilled. So right now, everyone is good. You have to become great. You have to learn from other people's mistakes. This is one of my favorite quotes from Will Smith. And this was like, he was nominated, or no, he won an award for like the Kid Choice Award or something like that. I think this was back in, I don't know, maybe like 1999 or something. This was way back in the day or whatever. But this is what he said. And I really like this. He said, the keys to life are running and reading. When you're running, there's a little person that talks to you and says, oh, I'm tired. My lungs are about to pop. I'm so hurt. There's no way I can possibly continue. And you want to quit. If you learn how to defeat that person when you're running, you will learn how to not quit when things get hard in your life. For reading, there have been a gazillion other people that have lived before us, and there's no new problem that you have with your parents, with your school, with a bully. There's no new problem that someone hasn't already had written about in a book. So he's like, look, running and reading. When you're running, you're sitting there like, all right, I'm tired. And if you keep going, then you become this persistent person. You defeat that voice in your head. And then the reading, like you said, there's no new problem that you have that somebody else hasn't already had and they found the solution to. And so that's why running and reading are essentially the keys to success. And so this is why you have to do both. Remember, running, you're working hard. Reading, you're working smart. You got to do both at the same time nowadays. You can't do one or the other. And so it's really, really important that you do that. So like I said, with more content that people are producing, everybody's becoming desensitized to content. In the beginning, when there wasn't a lot of content, you could put something out there, people would pay attention to it. It's like, just like, the Oprah effect. So nowadays, there's no possible way anyone can have the Oprah effect. Like it just doesn't matter. If you have your own show, your own network, you can have more viewers than Oprah did back in the day. You will not be able to have the Oprah effect, where if you bring someone on that show and they just become a freaking celebrity overnight, like they generate tons of sales overnight. It doesn't happen nowadays because back in the day, there wasn't all that stuff that was happening. So all the attention was there with Oprah. And then she said, buy this person's stuff, and poof, everybody bought that stuff. Nowadays, it doesn't work like that. Same with Michael Jackson. Nobody will ever be as big as Michael Jackson. And it's just because back in the day, it's very different compared to today. And so you have to understand that the more there is, the more skilled you have to be to capture, keep, and convert people's attention to anything that you do. And this is why I said, like, people who are creating content, if you're not getting good at presentation, if you're not getting good at communication, you're gonna lose. Like, you hands down will lose as someone who's a better communicator than you. It's like the platform speaker out here, hands down the best platform speaker I've ever seen. Guy just closes rooms like ridiculous in terms of a room full of 400 people, 380 of them buy his $3,000 product. And he's just more skilled than everybody else. Like, he's more skilled than all these other speakers. And that's why he sells more. And so he's skilled up. Now, when you skill up like that, you naturally become great. You have to skill up in everything that you're doing. So, like, remember back in the day, once again, like back in the day, maybe 5 years ago, 5, 7 years ago, with celebrities. if a celebrity came out with a sex tape, everybody's like, oh my goodness, Kim Kardashian, oh snaps, the like huge sex tape, scandal and all that stuff. Now if a celebrity comes out with a sex tape, it's almost like expected. Like, wow, I'm surprised he didn't have one. Like, oh, that's nothing new. And so once again, people have become desensitized. So the only people who win, like in terms of celebrities, if they're trying to get fame that way, the only people who win are the ones who come up with a bigger story than a regular sex tape at this point, because people have become desensitized to it. That's why the guy from Empire, how do you say his name? Like Julie, I don't know, the dude from Empire, that recently happened, and he created that whole publicity. It was, honestly, he was trying to do a publicity stunt. That's what he was really doing. It just backfired on him big time, because he knew, like, hey, if he came out with a sex tape, hey, sex tape, everybody has a sex tape now. So he had to think about something that was just insane. And so he was thinking, all right, let me combine the whole thing that he's gay with that he's black. He's like, let me have these dudes act like they're beating me up and then throwing bleach on me and all. He was doing that because he understood that, hey, he had to do something different, something bigger than a regular sex tape that everybody's having in order for him to get attention. And so that's why, like, celebrities, I almost feel like most people would do what he does. Maybe not like that exact same thing, but most of celebrities think that way because they're thinking about, how do I get attention? Because they realize if I just come out with a sex tape, it's not going to get attention anymore. Everybody's doing it. So they think of other crazy things that they can do to get more attention. And so you have to understand that the more skilled you are, the better you are, or the easier things are going to be for you. So you got to skill up. While everybody else is coasting nowadays, you have to skill up. Get better at Facebook ads. Get better at cold calling. Get better at cold email. Get better at what it is you need to do to get the end result that you want to get to. And so, like I said, with Facebook ads back in the day, all you had to do was just freaking place a Facebook ad. That's all, and you'd probably make money. Nowadays, because everybody's doing it, everybody's become desensitized to it, everybody's paying less attention. Nowadays, the only people who get the attention are the ones who create an amazing Facebook ad with great ad copy, great image or video. Those are the only people who get attention. Then eventually it's going to get to a point where, once again, it's going to be like, here's all the good people, here's the great people. The good people are going to step their game up a little bit, and then all of a sudden the great people, everyone's going to be on even level, and the great people are going to say, you know what, forget this. And they're going to step their thing up a little bit more. And so that's what keeps happening every single time. Now, like I said, the good thing is that you need to just understand this. The good thing is that when you understand the fact that you got to skill up, you just become more obsessed about what it is you need to skill up in. So if you're doing cold emailing, you say, it's no longer good enough for me to just sit down and write a cold email. In fact, cold email is a perfect example. A lot of people say to me, Benji, I tried cold emailing, it doesn't work. And I say, sometimes I'll literally say, like, that's because you suck at it. That's why it's not working for you. Back in the day, you could suck at it and you could still get results. Nowadays, if you suck at it, you won't get any results, because back in the day, remember, there wasn't a lot of spam emails the way it is now. So back in the day, if you send an email, everybody would look and they'd be like, oh, okay, let me read this thing. That's what happened back in the day. But because there's a lot of spam emails nowadays, people look at it, they're like, oh, it's probably a spam email. They don't even open it at this point. And so the only people who get more skilled are the ones who say, all right, let me figure out what headline, what subject line can I write that's going to really get them to open that email. And then let me figure out what can I say in the email. Back in the day, all you had to do was just create a template, copy and paste that template, and send that template out to people. That's all you had to do. Just copy and paste a template. Let me just send it out to 1 million people, and a lot of them are going to respond. Nowadays, now that everybody's done that, everyone's thinking like, damn it, this person just copied and pasted, and they just ignore it. So who actually wins in the cold emailing space? The only people who win are the ones who skilled up. The only people who win are the ones who said, you know what? I'm going to use a template, but I'm going to customize it to this person. So now people see it. They read it. They're like, okay, this email was meant for me specifically. So that's why I say to people, you are probably doing the right things, but you're not skilled enough to get the result. That's what's happening. That's why everyone thinks it doesn't work. No matter what it is you're doing, I'm telling you, no matter what, if you're doing a webinar, sales video, cold email, cold calling, here's what I've seen people do. They do that thing. They do a webinar. They do cold email. They do cold calling. They do a sales video. They do content marketing, whatever it is. They do it. They're not skilled enough at it, and then they blame that thing. They're like, cold emailing doesn't work. Cold calling doesn't work. Webinars don't work. Sales videos don't work. Content marketing doesn't work. No, it works. You just suck at it. You got to get better at it. You got to become the best at it. You got to become obsessed with it. And when you do that, you naturally get better than other people at it, and you naturally get more results than everybody else. So that's all you really got to do. You got to truly study other people, study more in terms of just improving. And this is why I keep hearing about like analytics and data and all that sort of stuff, because the analytics and data, it tells you what it is you need to get better at, which is why Vasily Lomachenko, the boxer, that's why he's a better boxer than all these other guys, because his technology is better. It's saying, here's what you need to improve. So it's not just, here's what you got to do, like, oh, just figure out all this stuff. It's more like you got to improve this specific thing. That's why I tell people, like, hey, when you're doing cold emails, you got to get a system like Yesware, because it tells you exactly what it is you need to improve. If you see that you sent out emails and nobody opened your emails, what does that tell you? It tells you, I got to improve the subject line. But if you send out the email, most of the people open the emails, but nobody clicks on the link to your website, what does that tell you? It tells you whatever I wrote in the email, I got to improve that because it didn't captivate them enough to click on the link to the website. On the other hand, if you send out the email, they open it, they read it, they click on the link to your website, but then nobody buys, what does that tell you? It tells you like, hey, whatever my sales page is, I got to improve that sales page because it's not good enough. And so that's why like you skill up. That's why people say like data analytics, you use that to skill up, to know what it is you need to improve instead of just saying, here's what I think I need to improve. Because your mind is, it's pretty freaking amazing in terms of how your mind can just justify anything. And that's why like in the beginning when I was doing the cold calling, I thought I called way more people than I actually was during a day. And I thought I talked to a lot more people, but in reality, I wasn't. And if I would have actually tracked it from day one, I would have easily have seen like, hey, no, I'm only talking to freaking 8 people in a 90-minute session. So how do I make this better? Like, how do I get better at this in terms of talking to more people, more of the right people and all of that? That's what you're really trying to do. So you have to understand that things won't get easier until you become better. That's what you have to truly focus on. The only way things get easier is when you become better. So that's all I wanted to say today. What's up, Richard, with the beehive? I like that. All right, so we are good to go. Let's see. Let's see if there are any questions. Let's see. Benji, why are you so beautiful? Try. Oh my goodness, Benji, I love you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, cool. So we are good to go for today. Let's see. Who am I talking with tomorrow? All right. So tomorrow I'm just talking with the speakers tomorrow. So, if you guys want to be notified of when I'm doing these Facebook Lives, go to benjibruce.com, sign up to the newsletter, and you'll be notified exactly when I'm going to do the Facebook Lives. They're always at 9 a.m. It's just a matter of which days it is. It is Monday through Friday, but just depends on which channel it's on. So I guess we are good to go for today. I will see you guys, some of you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody. Adios.